Hello, and welcome to week 4 of Strategic Communication and Media Relations. This week, we are going to cover digital communication, which is one of my favorite topics within this course to cover. Last week, we covered corporate communication, specifically focusing in brand management, reputation management, as well as how social media influencers could help or potentially hinder the brand reputation. Like I said, this week we are going to cover digital communications. We've got the Papa Giorgio et al. Reading from 2020, a Pew 2021 reading, and Tariq 2021. So let's get into it. For the Papa Giorgio et al. Reading, it really focused on investigating the use of social media platforms as digital communication tools, but it was specific within the hospitality realms and hotel enterprises. This was a very specific reading. However, you can apply these lessons to your organization as well. Because we focus on the era of digitization, we want to effectively promote and advertise products and services. There is a revolution in marketing and advertising because SNSs, or social network sites, have become very reliable and they are inexpensive marketing tools. Everybody has access to social media. So we're going to talk about social network sites a little bit further within this reading. And digital marketing becomes a very new way of operating and communicating with our customers. It's super easy, inexpensive, and very effective. But this can lead us to bankruptcy and non-survival if not used properly, which is what we'll talk about next. So bankruptcy and survival are often attributed to refusal to embrace these new digital communication SNSs and enterprises. The enterprises that do stick to their old ways of working typically suffer the consequences. Think back to when you've had to ask somebody how to use a particular social media if it's not something that you grew up with, or if you've ever had to explain something to somebody because it's not what they grew up with. My grandfather, I love him. He is a sweet angel baby. But he asked me, Kylie, can you help me set up the Facebook? And I said, you want the Facebook? Because he didn't realize it was just called Facebook. And I asked him, why do you want one? Well, I want to keep in contact with my friends. And I said, Grandpa, you have all their phone numbers and you still don't keep in contact with them. What do you think is going to change with social media? So if they stick to their old ways, they're typically going to suffer the consequences. Social network sites, SNSs, and social media have changed communication. Through the evolution of social media and SNSs, social networking has become increasingly sophisticated. And this is because there is a lack of understanding of social media tools and operation. And this is an area of pitfall for many managers and entrepreneurs because they don't understand how to use these SNSs. Contributions to building brands are a huge part of bankruptcy and survival because they don't contribute more and therefore their brand can't survive. And there's also an area of combination of various internet tools that enables users to generate, exchange, modify current and previous content. So by using these combination of tools, we typically gain more survival skills for our brand and organization. So next, we're going to talk about the findings from this study. The findings state that social media can be a great digital communication tool, especially for hospitality enterprises, but it doesn't just have to work for hospitality enterprises. This does need to be done through appropriating attention to tools of social media rather than just focusing on the internet for general purposes, because it can impact our business performance. Now, hospitality industries need to be more active and involved in digital communication in order to be successful. If they don't have an online presence, their organization is not going to survive against all the others within the industry that do. Think about your organization and focus on how might your organization have an online presence, or how might you use some of these tools in order to update your online presence. Next, we're going to talk about the Pew 2021 research article. So we know that a majority of adults in the US get at least some of their news online. They do so through smartphones, computers, and tablets. But they have to focus on two things: audience and economics. So first we focus on the audience. So we have a couple different things we talk about with audience and news publishing. We have digital natives. This is news that is published specifically online, such as Axios or HuffPost. We also have legacy news, which is all about organizations focus on print or broadcast first, and then they take it to online matters later. This is like New York Times and or Fox News. So when you're talking about the audience, thinking about what type of news media you're using or you are, that can impact how your audience is going to receive that message. But you have to take the audience into consideration for success or the organization and traffic. The top outlets with the highest traffic average just under 30 million unique visitors monthly. So when I say this, it's not just 30 million visitors, people who have used it regularly, but 30 million new visitors monthly. And that's an average. Of course, some months are lower and other months are higher. But most news outlets are going to have apps for at least one of their two main mobile platforms. It was stated that 73% of the highest traffic news outlets have apps for at least one of the two main platforms, such as iOS or Android. Thinking about how people are getting their news, making it mobile friendly. This is very important for consumers as well as organizations and businesses to stay relevant. Continuing with the audience, we often focus on the development and adoption of digital outreach and engagement. So organizations and businesses really need to develop and adopt other digital outreach and engagement methods. So we can do so through newsletters, Flipboard, Apple News, podcasts, comments on articles, and social media outlets. 93% of top traffic outlets have newsletters that they send out via email or on their webpage. 95 have a presence on Flipboard. 88% have an official presence on Apple News. 75% release podcasts. 39% allow for commenting on their articles, so talking to direct consumers. And there is a high usage of social media as part of outreach too. So all outlets are going to have Facebook, Twitter, and potentially YouTube, but Facebook and Twitter are very common for organizations to use. All outlets have Facebook and Twitter. 96% have a presence on Instagram. 93% have a presence on YouTube. 57% have a presence on TikTok, which is really aimed at the younger generation since it's an app that most of them use. And 26% have a presence on Snapchat. So they've gone so far to infiltrate younger audiences' social media usage. And finally, with this Pew article, we talk about the economics. Digital communication has grown exponentially, and this is due to being able to advertise digitally. This continues to grow revenues, and since 2020, our digital advertising grew to about $152 billion in revenue. In 2011, there was only $31 billion in revenue. And I say only, like 31 billion isn't a huge amount of money in revenue. But from 2011 to 2018, it grew to $111 billion in revenue. And 2018 to 2019, it grew to $132 billion. And 2019 to 2020, it grew to $152 billion. So digital advertising has really done a great thing for economics and organizations because of the digital advertising. Finally, we're going to end this week up with the Tariq 2021 article. Tariq states that communication is a critical part of any organization's success. You have to have communication in order to be able to even talk to your stakeholders. So it's a huge part of success. And this leads into our communication strategy plan, which is just a plan for communicating with our target audience. So there are a couple questions we have to ask. Who are we talking to? Why are we talking to this group of people? How and when are we going to talk to them? What forms of communication should the content take? And what channels should we use to share that information? Tariq goes on to state that there are 5 steps of a good communication strategy plan. The first is, what is the purpose of our communication plan? We want to make sure the right people are hearing our message when they are ready to hear that message and in a way that we want them to hear it. So we need to ask, who do I need to reach? Why do I need to reach this group of people? What will my communication say? How will I deliver this message at the best time for them that's going to have the best impact on the audience and the best impact for me and my organization? What channels am I using, or what channels can I use for my specific delivery? Next, we focus on who are we communicating with, or who is our target audience, and what messages do they need to hear? Not so much what do they want to hear, but what do they need to hear? So we need to know that there is not a message that is one size fits all. I can't put out, because I'm HealthCom, an anti-smoking campaign and expect that teenagers, young adults, mid-aged adults, and older adults are going to see, hear, and respond to and quit smoking. It doesn't work like that. So we need to define who needs to hear what is happening within our organization. Then we should create an audience map. This audience map is going to identify key audiences and messages that they need to hear in order for them to take action. Okay, so if we're talking about Northwest, we're all students here or faculty here. If we're talking about Northwest, going to high schools in the area is a great way to give them our message. Going to nursing homes, probably not what we want to do. So we create that audience map. Third, how will our message be communicated? We have to provide the framework for outreach activities through specific channels. So these channels can involve social media, email marketing, blog posts, and video content, right? And the more specific we are with our messaging and visuals, the better our chances of getting people engaged and taking action are. So we want to have specific channels already in plan, and we want to be specific with them. Tailor them to the audience and the channel. The reason that War of the Worlds and 1984 worked so well for the time is because we didn't have TV broadcasts of things, right? So people heard it on the radio and thought it was real. That necessarily wouldn't happen today on radio. But how do we need to think about our communication being received and what's going to impact them? Fourth, when should this communication happen? Should it be right now or later on? The timing is very important in order to be effective and strategic. So we should specify when the message should be taken. So we need to create a crisis communication plan and have effective strategies. So we should develop 2 equally effective strategies, one for a message now and one for a message deployed later in anticipation of events that might happen down the road. And this is that crisis communication plan. We're just cushioning ourselves against unexpected turns of events, no matter what happens. We may not have to deploy that later message, but we do have it should we need it. And finally, who will be responsible for this communication? Communications professionals should be held responsible for communicating with external audiences. And they should do so often. So this should be done by communication professionals externally and during crisis. HR, or human resources, should communicate or should be tasked with responsibility of communicating messages internally. And we do so through a couple ways. We define these key messages. Both comm professionals or HR should be defining key messages. They should note who is responsible to deliver them. If you are in HR, are you the head of HR? Are you an intern? If you are a communication professional, what other professionals are on your team? So tasking who is going to deliver the message. We need to define the audience. Who are we talking to? Is it a group of teenagers or older adults? Is it internally within our organization where we have multiple ages at every level? Or is it we're all pretty much at the same level, or we're all pretty much at the same age or thought process? We should focus on what they need to know about this change or about this communication. And we should provide that information in a timely way. It needs to be delivered in a timely manner so everybody has all the information up front. And we need to keep the message concise. These messages should be easily digestible and not something that they have to sit through an hour-long discussion about if it's something that could be handled in 5 minutes. So this is the end of week 4, digital communication. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out, and I will see you next week.